Hi guys, Ms. Coe here with your lesson video for 4A Part 2. In 4A Part 2, what I want you guys to notice is that A no longer equals 1. And in the first video for 4C Part 1, we looked at what a quadratic looks like. And when we listed out what standard form looks like, it looks like this, okay? And what I want to point out is this A and our B and our C. Because when we're factoring by grouping, and we're factoring a quadratic, again, a quadratic looks like this. This is a second degree polynomial. A quadratic in standard form has 3 terms. So here's our x squared term, our x term, and our constant, or a number that does not have a variable. When we want to factor a quadratic, it normally has 3 terms. And so in order to factor it by grouping, okay, which is what we want to do, to factor by grouping, we want to split the middle term. And this is the way I say it. We'll split that middle term, split the middle. Okay, and our middle term, that's our x term, right? And the way that we're going to split the middle, split that middle term, is we're going to play the numbers game. The numbers game tells us what those 2 different x values are that we're splitting to. We've been playing that numbers game for the bell ringer. We're always looking for 2 numbers. They have to multiply to A times C and add to B. And this A times C and the B, those A and B are the coefficients, and C is the constant of our quadratic. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead. For that first one, we're going to identify what our A, our B, and our C is, okay? It's only in this order if you are already in standard form. So we'll make sure that we're in standard form when we do these problems, okay? And when we do these problems, we'll do them just like we did for 4C Part 1. We'll go ahead and just put those terms right in the box. And the terms that we want to put in the box, we'll put the first term in the first box, this 15x squared, and the last term in the last box. This first term, this is our A, here's our C, so we'll multiply, and A times C equals 30. We're going to remind ourselves that B equals 11. Here's that middle term. We want to split it into 2 different x terms. Okay, they're both going to have an x, and we're going to try to figure out how we want to split that 11. Okay, the 2 terms we split to have to multiply to 30. So let's take a look at some of the factors of 30. We've got 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. And we notice that this factor pair does add to 11. So that's what we're going to use to split our middle term here. We'll split it into plus 5x and plus 6x. And once we've figured out what that middle term will split to, we're going to put that in our boxes here. Once we've got that done, really, this is factor by grouping, just the way that we did it in 4B Part 2. We'll find the GCF for the top row and the bottom row. Let's go ahead and do that. So for the top row, our GCF is 5x. And look at on this next row down, there's no common factor here, so we've got to go with that 1. For these headers, for our column headers, we can ask ourselves, we can do the GCF again, right? But we can also say, well, what do we need to multiply 5x by to get back to 15x? And that would be a 3x. To get back to a 5x, we'd need to multiply it by a 1. We'll bring that plus up here. And this is also a positive. If we don't see anything there, then we know that it's a positive. Okay? We want to check to make sure everything multiplies correctly. 3 times 1 is 5x. It's not 5x. So we're going to take a look at what happened here. Oh, and look at that. When we put this second term in, it went in as 5x, but it was supposed to be 6x. So you can see mistakes definitely help us learn. If I hadn't double checked, right, I would have missed that. So be sure that you check your factoring by multiplying. So this I should have written as a 6x plus 2, okay? And if we look at our GCF now, we're going to have to redo it, right? Because we did our GCF with the 5x. So I'm going to go ahead, change it to a 6x, and we'll redo the GCF for this row, okay? The GCF for that bottom row then would be a 2, right? So the GCF for the bottom row is a 2. And now when we go through and we double check, 3x times 2 is 6x. 1 times 2 is 2. Great. To write our answer, we'll take the top terms, and those will go in our second set of parentheses, like so. These terms on the side are going to go in our first set of parentheses. So we'll take the 5x, we'll put that first. This is a positive 2. We've got to write the plus. These are actually two binomials, meaning they have to be separated by an add or a subtract. And that's the answer. For example, number 1, part 4C2, okay? Let's go ahead and work example number 2. So again, we're always going to start off by making our box. And once we've got our box made, we'll always take that first term, put it in our first spot, and we'll take the last term in the last spot. Okay, we're always also going to be looking for GCF. If we do notice a GCF, we're going to factor it out right away. We have some examples like that at the end. So here we want to put that 4x squared, and then our last term, okay? We'll multiply that first term and the last term. This is our A, this is our C. So our A times C ends up being a positive 24. And we need factors of that 24 that also add up to what our B value is. And our B value is 11. This is that middle term we're going to end up splitting. When we multiply our A times C, we'll get a positive 24. So the factors for our 24, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 4, or rather 3 and 8, sorry, and 4 and 6. Here's those factors of 24. And you can get those right off your factor table. Or remember, guys, you can use your calculator, math, arrow right, 9. And then on your calculator, no, you don't put enter after that, but right after you hit that 9, you're going to see GCD parentheses. And we'll go ahead and we'll put our 24 in, okay, if we want to compare it to something, right? But look, if we don't want to compare it to something and we just want to get the factor list, okay, we're going to use, and this is what we use to compare, to find a greatest common factor. But if we want to only get a factor list like this, to use the calculator for that factor list for just one number, the command we're going to use is y equals. And then when we get into y equals, we're going to want to use y over, or rather, excuse me, sorry, we'll go 24 divided by y, okay, when we put that in there. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put, we'll press our table button, all right? So that's the way we're going to get this factor list on our calculator, okay? So splitting that middle term, right, we're looking for a set of these factors that would combine to 11. And we can see here 3 and 8, those do add to 11. So the x terms that we're going to use, plus 3x plus 8x, okay? Remember, they always have to combine to that middle term, or b. It actually doesn't matter which spot you put which, but because I wrote that 3x first, I'll use that one first. Of course, now we're just factoring by grouping 4b part 2. We'll take the GCF of that top row, the GCF of this bottom row would be a 2 of that. And here's where you can put the 8 and the 6 to get your GCF using this math arrow right 9 if you'd like. Remember, you can use that to compare two different numbers to find the GCF. And right here is where you'd write, or rather press in your calculator, you go 8, comma, 6, and then you'd press your enter key. You can put that end parentheses, you don't have to, but after you put in the 8, comma, 6, you can press enter, and it will give you the GCF between those two terms, which is a 2. All right, now we're going to go to those top spots. And on those top spots, we like to ask, what do I need to multiply x by to get back to 4x squared? And we need to multiply by 4x. On this term, we need to multiply by, and we're going to bring that plus up. We need to multiply by a plus 3. Let's check. 4x times x is 4x squared. Good. 3 times x is 3x. 4x times 2, 8x. 3 times 2 is 6. Perfect. We'll take those side terms, put them in the first set of parentheses. Don't forget to write that plus because it's positive. Okay, if we don't see anything there, we've got to put that plus in. 4x plus 3 are the terms on the top. We put them together in the second set of parentheses, and that is the answer on example number 2. All right.